Hiya, it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. Now I have got a pile of backgrounds that are building up. These ones here in particular are from a jelly plate. I was having a big play around. I kind of cut up some of them and used some of them, and then I kind of put them in a pile, and of course with things like that you kind of end up doing far more than you are ever going to need. And I am going to kind of work on this pile today. I have a whole lot more different backgrounds as well. I am going to do a few more videos on these just to use up some of them because I have a pile and I need to make it smaller. So I'm just choosing here 4 that I think will go together, kind of holding them next to each other. And I'm trying to pick backgrounds that aren't super bold, but they also have quite a bit of texture and a few different colors to each one. Now I am only going to need about half of each one of these, so I'm just going to cut them in half, just roughly, because I can use the other bits for something else as well. I have taken 4 embossing folders. I don't tend to carry too many embossing folders. I have maybe 8 or 9 all up perhaps, and so I have got these 4 here. They're all different brands, and I'm going to put each one of these pieces of paper, 1 each in these, and run them through my die cutting machine. Sometimes I have to cut off a little bit of that white space around the edge, and that just means that I can kind of get more of the pattern on the colored piece here. But any 4 embossing folders will work really fine because we are kind of going to bring them all together and make them nice and cohesive as well. So you can see that they leave this gorgeous texture. There is the buffalo plaid one, there's like those big large dots, here are some hexagons, and you can kind of see with that pattern there with the blues, the pattern gets lost a little bit. It's not super obvious, so we are going to bring that out by using some Hero Arts Unicorn Pigment ink. This is a white ink and it is going to go just gently across the top. Now don't press down hard. I'm literally not even pressing. I'm kind of just gliding it down across. I've zoomed in a little bit, and this will just kind of help bring out that pattern but not lose those beautiful colors in the background. Now I'm not worried about my ink pad here because these jelly prints were all done with acrylic paints, so they are dry and permanent and nothing is going to come off on my white ink pad. And you can see the patterns just a little bit more clearly now. So to put these patterns to good use, I am going to have a piece of copy paper here. This is just a really thin piece of paper, and this is kind of just my guide. Now I didn't really have a good plan, if I'm honest. I am not usually one for doing lots and lots of measuring. So I kind of squared these up and made sure that they had the straight edges, and then I kind of basically just cut different sizes of each piece. Now I actually end up with heaps of leftovers here, and I'm able to make several cards. I'm going to show you a couple of the card fronts that I made, but honestly you could go to town on this technique and just keep going and going. The other thing that you could do instead of putting over white pigment ink is I could have chosen, you know, for the blue, I could have done a really dark pigment ink, and then the purple, a darker purple to go over top, and so on, and that would have brought out the design really well as also, but I was just going with the white pigment ink because it was nice and easy, and again it kind of made them all a little bit similar and kind of brought in that aspect of having that white on top to bring out the pattern. But that would be another option. So I kind of just roughly put these down in a really simple pattern. All I want to do is cover my little card front. You could add on, I've chosen to do 4 colors here, but you could do as many as you possibly wanted to. You could do these in all different strips going across the page, anything at all. I was trying to do something a little bit different other than just having cut strips go across the page, so I'm going for this kind of more of a block pattern on this one. Just deciding which way around I should do the colors, and I'm just using some liquid glue. This is the Ranger Multi-Medium glue, and it works really well. It dries completely matte and no shine at all, so I always use this glue, and I know that it's nice and strong for when I cut the bits off from the back here. I know that everything is well adhered down to my piece of copy paper. Now I kind of did this one here and then realized that I had heaps and heaps left over. So I'm going to bring in a second card front here. Now what I wished I had done is I wished once I had finished this that I had cut it with a trimmer, because you'll see I actually end up cutting it wonky. So what I did with this one, I finished the second one off camera, but once I had glued everything down and then I did the same process as before using the same glue. This one just has a few more little bits and pieces to it, and then I cut it wonky when I was trimming it with my scissors, just because I was being a bit lazy and just doing it that way. But all I did to fix that was just used a rectangle die, and die cut out of the front of it, and then I have a perfect background again ready to go. So even when you make a mistake and you cut it wonky or you put on the pieces wonky, make it work, die cut something out of it, make use of it, and that makes me feel like I'm still using up all of these background pieces and putting them to good use. So in a second you'll see that this is not on straight. I didn't glue them on straight and I should have looked. So it's a bit wonky and that would bug me too much to put it on a card front, but as I said, all I did was die cut a panel out of it and it was perfectly good to go again, so no waste at all. So here I'm going to focus on the first one we did. I have this die here that is actually part of a 5 die set, and I am going to cut this one out of some plain white cardstock. I have all the little things letter it stamp set here. I've used this one so many times. This is such a good stamp set, a good all-round stamp set for all occasions. I'm going to pop You're Awesome in the middle using some VersaFine Onyx Black ink. Again, it's another pigment ink, which is great for stamping fine detail and sentiments and things. Then I am going to kind of cut some little slits here on the side so that I can thread through some vellum. Now you could have used some ribbon or something for this, that would work really nicely too, but again I already have lots of colours in the background, so I didn't want to introduce too many more. I like keeping it a little bit plain and simple and not having it too busy, so I am choosing to add a little tiny fine strip of vellum, but as I said, anything else, ribbon or scraps of paper, you could be really creative and do something awesome there as well. I think I ended up cutting, I think this is maybe 1/2 inch or so, and then just to add a little bit more detail to it, I'm taking another one of my embossing folders and I am going to emboss part of it as well that is going to be seen on the front of the card. So I'm not worried that it hangs off the edges. I will need it to wrap around the card, so I didn't want to cut it any shorter, but I am going to just wrap these around the back of the embossing folder. And that works perfectly fine for when I put it down on my card. So again, it just gives it a little bit more interest and a little bit more texture, but completely optional. I did decide that because I had stamped it in the sentiment in some black ink, that I wanted to just include a tiny little bit of black. So here I have a black piece of paper and I'm creating the tiniest, finest border, and I think that this really works well. If you didn't want to add another layer of black cardstock, then you could always just go around the edges with some black ink. But this black piece of paper was sitting right in front of me, so it was just as easy. I have got a tiny little bit of double-sided tape there on the back of my sentiment, and then I'm going to thread this through the edges. Then once I think I've kind of got it in the right place and I like how it looks, I'm just going to remove that little bit of tape so that the sentiment will sit nice and flat. Then, just because I haven't got too much dimension at all on this one, I'm also going to pop some foam squares on the back and pop it up nicely. I'm going to pop 4 on so it's nice and supported, and then this is going to go right in the center. I didn't mean for it to kind of cover up all the seams of where the colors meet, but it does cover it up nicely and I still really like the look of the card. I'm going to bend the little vellum flaps backwards around there, and I had some double-sided tape waiting to adhere it down. And then that is pretty much my card finished. You can take any of your background scraps that you have created, emboss them, and then add a little bit of ink, whether that be white or colored, to bring out those gorgeous details, and then add them together to make a really gorgeous card. So I hope you enjoyed this one today. I have another couple of videos coming on how to use up our backgrounds in completely different ways, and I look forward to seeing you for those. See you later, bye!